Global Media Forum 2010 from June 21st to June 23rd in Bonn. It's time to open our eyes. Time to do something. And for the media in particular, to highlight threats, explain solutions, and outline opportunities.
The journalists themselves and the people who are producing news and information can use network journalism to access more and different kinds of information, because climate change is such a huge topic. And it's everything from agriculture to forests to oceans to business to energy to economics, and it's really a lot for any one person to grasp.
Now, in a desperate attempt to fill 24 hours of programming, here's some bullshit that happened somewhere today. We've got some footage here of the bullshit, which began just after 3 o'clock this afternoon, when residents in this neighborhood were shocked to see this fairly common thing happening.
I think it's the same tools that you'll have on not online media, traditional media, and it's basically a way of thinking your role as a journalist. And I think pretty much it's the same role you have in traditional media and you have in online media. And it's basically not only to focus on crooks and victims and drama and conflicts, which are the templates of normal news journalism in the traditional news media. I think we should try to add another news criteria, which we call constructive news. Try to look at stories that can inspire and look for solutions to the problems we also, of course, have to cover. And we try in interviews, we ask people if they criticize a political opponent.
Many of you in this room may be journalists. How many of you are journalists in this room?
It's not journalism, it's advertising. So if people call you and said, I have a good story to tell you, it's because they want to sell you something.
For journalism to survive, need to adapt and reload in a new form. So from a gatekeeping function to a facilitator, moderator of a conversation where you bring diverse voices, especially on complex issues such as climate change. So I think that this session proved that the networked journalism concept may be valid, especially when you have very difficult and multi-layer issues such as climate change, because you can bring the different voices around. And if you have a public servant, a journalist, someone who can moderate this conversation based on a clear set of value and rule of engagement, then maybe we will be better off in the long term in understanding the context, the issue, and having given voices to those who usually don't have in this debate.
How much adding a new tools in your toolbox helped you as a journalist in reporting a story?
It's made a huge difference. Now, because the times are so complex, the questions are not so easy to answer. So it's so much better to look to people to give the answers.
I believe much more than before that it is absolutely essential for there to be this thing called networked journalism. The journalists have to learn to be mobile across all platforms. There's no other choice.
How do you think you can sex up climate change?
That's a good question. Well, I believe that you have to use all the tools that you have at your disposal. And I also believe that you have to welcome other voices into the sort of media wallpaper. And failing to do that, I don't think that we can really expect to change the cultural narrative that has basically created the problem that we're all experiencing.
Well, it's my belief that by turning to the crowd, we can more accurately cover climate change. I believe that when you get the perspective of people that are living the urgency of climate change, you get a more accurate and more authentic vision of truly what's happening. And for an example of us using crowdsource media as it relates to climate change, we're setting up a Gulf Coast news desk to reach out to citizens to get their perspective, to have them share their solutions of how we clean up the Gulf.